Hi, everybody. My name is Jane Power, and I'm here with my friend Larry Webb, and we want to welcome you to The Called. This is our fourth podcast, and here we are.
That's it.
Here we are. A few little technical difficulties, but we're rolling now, so...
As long as the difficulties are before we start, it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. We're good.
Don't touch any of those buttons, Jimmy. All right. So what's going on, Lair? Where did we leave off?
So, basically, I just realized that that was probably the first time that I kind of told my story in detail like that. So that's where we were leaving off last week, basically.
Well, do you want to give like a little recap?
I don't
just
think
in case.
I think you have to go back and listen to last week's. That was the question you were asking me basically was about the book itself. So
right,
I brought a copy of the book. As you can see here, it's in my pocket. This is the book, and it was meant to be this size that you could put it in your pocket. The purpose of this book was actually that if you had an addiction problem and you found this book on the ground, that you could pick it up and it could help you. And for someone who's addicted, that's pretty big because their mindset isn't really...
Yeah, they're not going to be reading one of the big...
Very accurate. So
right.
That was part of it. Number two, it's about a 65-page book, so you can actually read it in a day, which is really not true.
Bing, bang, boom.
I had about 100 people try to read it in a day, and it doesn't work. There's too much inside of that little 64 pages.
I don't think I could read it in a day.
It doesn't happen in a day.
I'd be highlighting and taking notes. No, I wouldn't be able to do it.
So the book itself doesn't really tell my story. The book basically goes into the things that I learned on this journey.
And how did you learn these things?
And how did I learn them?
Yes.
Basically by through the process of meditating, and I really can't say how it connects. Just like you get messages, you're getting God messages, and
right.
It's kind of hard to explain how that happens. But
I can sort of kind of explain it.
Yeah, from the meditation, basically, I would just like find things. I would find books. I would find topics that are...
You would find them in your meditation? Or?
I would have the meditation, and the next day I'm gathering information, and all the stuff that I really need is there. So whether it was about something about how the brain works or how your body works or whatever it is, the information was there.
So someone would mention that they had just read a good book.
Not even that. I would just like pick out the right book or find the right thing, or it just would... If I went to... I think I was saying this before. If I went to a bookstore, I would look at every book that had the word insight on the back, and if I saw it, I would buy it.
Now, why insight?
Name of my business is Insight.
Okay, but this is before you started your business, right?
But I decided it's going to be called Insight. So
okay,
because I was saying, what is this thing that you're when you're meditating, you're going within,
right?
And so if you're learning something from that, it's insight, and that's kind of what So I didn't know if it was used before or whatever. I just figured that's what I was going to go with.
Right.
So anytime I would see a book, for example, and it said Insight on the back, I would just buy the book.
It was like, come with me.
I wouldn't even think of it. But, I mean, it was in the same section.
Yep.
Kind of that I'm looking for in self-help and stuff like that. So that was true. There was a one time in which I found a book that I wanted to read, but it didn't say Insight on it.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought it anyway. And then when I brought it home, when you take off the tag so you can't steal the book,
yeah,
they have that little sticker thing on there. You take off the sticker, the word Insight was behind it.
Wow.
So how was it happening? I have no idea. I had the
synchronicity.
The Ho'oponopono one was a book that I looked at. I literally put it back, walked out of the store, walked to my car, stopped in the middle of the street, walked back to get the book,
Really?
Looked at it again because I was only I had a gift card for $25, and the book said 35, so I wasn't gonna buy it. But when I looked at it again, it said 35 in Canada, 26 in the United States.
Bingo.
So I bought the book.
Okay.
Now, it's all cassettes or DVDs basically. At this point, it's DVDs.
Yeah.
So I put the DVD in my car. I'm driving down the road and listening to it. It's really interesting, and it says, "You probably walked away from this book, and something made you stop and go back and get it." I wanted to take my car off the road and just park
Yeah.
and say, "What? Are you serious?" So things like that would just synchronistically happen to me.
Right.
And
I had the same experience too. When
Yeah.
I first got on the path, it was just like
yeah,
I was hungry for information, and I would go to the bookstore, and just things would just jump out at me, and I was like, "All right,
crazy things.
you're
yeah.
coming home with me," and it
Yeah.
was always something that I needed.
My wife at the time bought me a book on addiction by Deepak Chopra, which if someone said Deepak Chopra now to me, I'd be like, "Oh, I got to read that." Well,
Read
I
Deepak Chopra's books.
I was like, in that state of mind, I was like,
His books are tough
"What is
to read.
this? What is this book all about?"
Yeah,
And I didn't get anything out of it.
yeah.
Um,
What was his first book? Ageless Body,
something like that, Timeless Mind, or something
like that. Yeah,
yeah.
I tried to read that. Oh
Yeah.
boy, that was way over my head.
Yeah. But then you get to know Wayne Dyer, who helps you understand Deepak.
Right.
He helps you understand some of the things that Deepak says. And
We both love Wayne Dyer.
but
Love him.
but the killer of it was the book didn't do anything for me. And then after I started the meditation and stuff would come to me, one
Mhm.
day I went down to my mailbox and there was a flyer with Deepak's picture on it. And I'm like, who's this guy? Who's this guy in my mailbox? And the next thing I started reading Deepak Chopra. And then later I found out
Did you read him or listen to him?
I was listening to him, audiobooks basically.
Yeah.
But I found out later the book that she bought me was Deepak Chopra. But that was
okay.
that was well after all that had happened. So basically what the book is like I said, it really does. It's like
You're talking about your book now.
Yes, my book.
Okay.
The story actually basically takes you through all the things that I did learn and
Mhm.
things that you need to realize about yourself if you're going to walk away from an addiction like that. If you're going to if you're going to just look at something that could put you in a better state of mind
Mhm.
and the kind of mindset that you have to have is kind of what the book is about. So,
Very cool.
yeah. So
Very cool.
it's,
So when is it? When's it going to be out?
it's out.
It's out.
By the time you hear this, it's out. End of August. It's actually in end of August. I have two. The only difference of the book in the store and this book is there's going to be a couple people that are going to write something on the back for me, which
Okay.
is kind of endorse it for me, which is really nice. And the ending changes a little bit.
Okay.
But that's it.
Would you like me to put something on the back, like the book that almost wasn't?
Let's not talk about books that almost wasn't. So
Yeah.
we won't go there.
Shut up.
We'll even go there.
Coming
so,
soon to a theater near you.
To
That's
a
all.
theater.
That's,
To a theater near you. Right?
that's all.
Could
I'm
be right
saying.
here. Could be right in this theater.
Theater or bookstore.
That's it. That's it. Or
I'm,
both.
I'm not allowed to say anymore.
Or
But
both.
anyways.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
So
where
what's,
we go?
what's going on with you?
What's going on with me? Well, it's been a very busy weekend. Where
Baby.
my oldest daughter is due to have her second child anytime now. So the minute I get the call, we're going to have to go pick up my little grandson, who's 4 years old, and bring him over to our house. And
Now, we were waiting for him last week, too, right?
yeah, we've
So
we've
this
been
is-
on call for a
been in
couple
the
weeks
call?
now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I have to have my phone
Close by and ready
close
to go.
by, and I have to have the volume on, which I never have the volume on. I can't stand it, but whatever. So, yep, we're waiting for our little granddaughter next. Woohoo!
Awesome.
I'm psyched.
Awesome. It's like the strangest thing that in the last 4 or 5 months since the pandemic. To
Since
be
the
honest with you,
since March.
since March,
Beginning of
babies are landing on the planet. I know at least 8 that have all come.
Babies are landing and souls are going to the other side.
Yeah,
They've had enough of this earth plane, and it's all supposed to be happening like that.
well.
So I'm told.
So you have the people that are having the babies
Mm-hmm.
who are all excited.
Yep.
So usually it's in many cases they're having their first or whatever. Yeah, and they're really excited. And then other people are saying, who would have a baby now? Which I think is interesting that people think that way.
If we
It's like-
if we thought that way and we didn't act on it, there would be no kids in the world because there's always something crazy happening in this world.
Correct. No matter what's going on, there's always, it's like
Exactly.
people who haven't lived through a pandemic like this, where all people are walking around with masks on. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, and you
Right.
just don't know what to believe anymore.
And
I
you-
just listened to something the other day about the whole mask thing.
yeah.
And this woman she's an expert in, what do they call it, PPEs? And she says that wearing a mask is not good for your health.
Hmm.
So,
I believe that.
yeah, I kind of believe it too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's bad if you're only wearing it into a store, for maybe a half hour. But for those people like myself who has to wear the mask all day long,
Yeah.
that's not good. I wouldn't think. I
From-
feel sorry for the doctors and nurses.
I'm on dialysis treatment right now,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have to sit for 4 hours.
And by the way, I
Um,
like those masks you gave me. They were excellent.
Oh, those are good.
Yeah.
And you have to wear the mask the entire time you're there. Of course, the nurses are all wearing the masks all day, and
Did
the
that
and the shield.
Has
They're-
it
they're
always
wearing
been
both.
like that where you've had to
No.
have the mask all
No.
day? Okay.
No. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't think they were wearing masks before, but they are now. So that's they're
Wow.
constantly washing their hands, and they're going through the whole entire routine. So you sit and you look on the planet and say, well, this is going on, or you look at this election coming up and you say, oh my God, what's going to happen next? These two? Do you know what I mean?
I know.
You thought it was bad before, right? But you have to realize that you're here on the planet at this time, which means you kind of chose to be here at this time
Yep.
to watch this happening,
To
You know what I
watch
mean?
or not to watch.
or to be, you're here for it. So you signed up for this time
gonna be
slot. This is
interesting.
it. Yeah, yeah. I think that's kind of wild.
It is wild.
Yeah. So another baby will be coming.
Another
Soon.
baby will be coming. I'm excited.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
I just
And
say.
my other baby, my baby,
Mhm.
Emily, who you know,
Mhm.
what do you call her? Your adopted daughter?
She's my adopted daughter. Yes,
Yes.
officially.
Yes. Emily, my youngest, she's 27 years old, and she just graduated from her, what did she get? She got her master's in holistic nutrition. And she's still living out in Portland, Oregon. Hopefully someday she'll be moving back home closer to Mom. But
She's not.
Larry, stop. Stop it.
She's not.
A mother can dream.
Yes.
So, anyways, yeah, I just talked to her the other day, and she's doing good.
Yeah.
She was telling me about her little synchronicity that she has in her life right now. Should I tell that story?
Well, before you say that, let me tell you this little segment I had with our neighbor, Dave, which you're going to get to know because he's our neighbor. He lives kind of above where Jane's studio is, which is across from me.
Yeah,
And he loves the news.
he's an
He likes to
interesting
watch.
character.
He likes to watch the news and get all hyped up. And
Well, he likes the chaos.
yeah, he's
That's why he
totally,
likes to watch the news.
he's totally into the chaos. And him and another friend of mine were telling me how bad it is, and they were saying how Portland was taken over, and the people in the streets and how crazy it
And
is.
Portland is where my daughter lives, and every time I talk to her, I'm like, so how's things going there? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like,
Exactly.
well, on the news, we're hearing all about Portland and how there's all this rioting. And she's like, Mom, she goes, I don't watch the news. Everything's hunky dory here.
Yeah, she goes, we have a little thing going downtown, but other than that, here's my garden. Here's the life
Yeah.
out here. And
Here's the rainbow
it's
and the
just-
butterflies, and everything's fine.
yeah. Yeah, so it's funny how the news hypes it up so big
Yeah.
that it becomes like this fear, like, oh my God, the people in Portland are taking over the state. That's not what's happening.
Well, that's what it's all about. Is
Yeah.
instilling fear in everyone's lives.
Yeah.
And a message that I've gotten over and over and over again for years has been live your life free of fear.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's one of the hardest things to do.
It's like when they were boarding up the windows at the mall, at the outlet. It's called the outlet around here.
Oh, that's when
The
they
big
had the
outlets.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, they were doing it, and
They were going to have
once
a
again,
nice, peaceful protest.
Once again, people were coming to me, like my neighbor was saying to me, "What are you gonna do when it happens? When people are in the streets?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna do what I do every day."
I know. I had
What
clients
do you-
telling me,
what
you
do you
know,
mean?
you sure you shouldn't be boarding up your windows? Because
Yeah.
you got those big windows in the front and blah, blah, blah. You should bring in your flower pots and all that stuff.
And the
And
day,
I'm like,
and the day came and went,
and nothing happened.
like nothing happened. Yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah, but people thrive on that stuff. People love that stuff.
Yeah,
It makes them feel alive, and that's
it's like the time.
that's Dave.
It was in 2001. Was just getting ready to happen. And
What?
it was 1999, and
Okay.
I was stopping at the time. I would stop for a sandwich on my way home from bartending, and I would go grab a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the store. It stays open 24 hours. And there was a guy in there who basically had a Bible, and it was all marked in yellow, all highlighted.
Oh, boy.
And he was telling the other people in the store how tomorrow's the end of the world, and you should repent right now, because if you don't, it's over tomorrow.
Was he a Jehovah?
I don't know what he was or what he was doing. I just was trying to
Because-
avoid him.
Because my neighbor did that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to avoid
She's a
this guy.
Jehovah.
Yeah. It was like 3:00 in the morning, and I'm like, let me just get out of here
Really?
before he catches me. So sure enough, I'm getting ready to walk to the register and pay. You. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. And I said, yes. And he goes, do you know the voice of God? And I was like, I'm sure he had something in the book that was going to tell me what it was.
Yeah.
But I said, yes, I do.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, really? Well, tell me. And I said, well, silence. I said, silence for me, you, a dog, a cat, a bird, a tree. Silence is all the same, which is God's voice. He was
Right.
angry. He was angry with me.
Yeah.
So he told me I needed to repent, and that the world
So
was...
what did he think God's voice was?
He didn't even get into it with me because he was just disgusted with my answer.
Well, he probably thought God's voice was what he was reading in the Bible and highlighted.
Whatever that was, I don't really know.
Kind of like the
and he didn't
Dorian
tell me.
Virtue thing.
Yeah, and he
You
didn't
know?
tell me. So I basically just said to him, I said, well, if you're right, I guess I won't be here tomorrow. But if you're wrong, I'll be here tomorrow at 2:30 once again, and we can meet and talk.
Yeah.
He didn't show up.
Really?
So I wonder what you did with all the highlighted things in the book.
I know.
Do you start again? Or what?
Yep.
Which I just thought was interesting. So,
I had the same thing happen with my neighbor.
yeah.
She's a Jehovah Witness, and she doesn't go and talk about this with any of the neighbors. She stays away from us. But I guess she decided that it was really getting close to the time that we were all going to be going to the other side. And she was just like, I don't care anymore. I'm going to talk about it. And she handed me that, what are they?
The Watchtower.
She handed me the Watchtower, and of course it was all gloom and doom and fire and all this.
That's the funniest thing, because when I was married and stuff like that before, I got crazy. Um, People like from Jehovah's Witnesses would come to the house.
Yeah.
My wife was from another country.
Yeah.
She was from Hungary, so she was like, close the door. People are trying to come.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, no, let them in. And I would invite them in. And I'd be like, come on in, have a
Yeah.
seat. And then let's talk about God. Let's get into it. And
Yeah.
they were more excited about the doom and gloom going on. And
Right.
and when they got finished talking with me, they wouldn't even leave Watchtower. They'd take their magazine and everything with them, which I thought was a little strange.
Yeah.
And then the next time they came, I was living in another situation, and sure enough, they came to our house, and there was two people standing on the step with me,
Yeah.
and their person that was obviously the leader
Yeah.
of them was staying further back.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how, devastating the world is and all the things that are wrong and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, whoa. You guys can't see that it's a gorgeous, sunny, beautiful day? What are you talking about? Where's God is love? Why can't you see it? And they stepped back, and
Yeah.
he came forward. And I just kept talking, and sure enough, they disappeared and didn't leave me in the magazine again.
Yeah.
You can't say things like, well, we are God's.
Exactly.
We are part of what God is doing, because
Right.
they walk away. They walk off your step and they mark your house not to come back. Because I could see them in the other around the neighborhood, but they never came back.
Okay.
So I thought that was interesting.
Now, I had an experience with the Mormon church.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little church dabbling over the years. But anyways, I was just going through a divorce with my second husband. And, I'm open-minded. So one day I got a knock on the door, and there were these two. I'd say they had just graduated from high school. And I guess with the Mormons, you graduate from high school, and before you go to college, you have to go out on the road for, I don't know, it's 1 or 2 years. So they were missionaries. So they popped by my house, and I let them in. They were just two nice girls. So I sat down with them every week for probably about 6 months. And they kept trying to get me to go to their church. And I'm like, nah, I'm not ready. Nah, I'm not ready. Nah, And me trying to get my kids to go to church was hell on earth.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like, my mother trying to get us to go to church. So I decided I was going to try it just by myself first. And then if I thought it was okay, I'd bring my kids in. And I did finally I finally went to the church and brought my kids. I think we lasted maybe 3 Sundays. And then I was just like, this is just too much for me. My kids would never last. I mean, it was like an all-day event, number one. And then they'd separate the men and the women. And the women were in the homemaking group, and the men were in some kind, I don't know what the heck the men did. But there were all sorts of stipulations. Like you couldn't drink tea or coffee. You couldn't drink booze. There were all these things that if you wanted to be a Mormon, you had to stop doing those things.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, there's no way that I'm going to, why do you want, because they wanted to baptize me. And I'm like, or they wanted to confirm me in the church. And I was like, why would you want me to join your church if I'm not going to do any of these things? Because I think that's all just man-made mumbo jumbo. I don't believe God really cares whether we drink coffee or tea or booze or whatever. So they were like, well, in time, you'll change your mind. You'll see it our way. And it was just like, all right, exit stage right.
Well, there's always
I'm out of here.
Yeah, there's all these different churches and different ways of doing things. And my father, who had a church,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a AME Zion church, which means African Methodist Church, basically.
Okay.
So you go to church, it's church, right? And that's
Right.
how I grew up. And when we went to church, we were there at 9 a.m. And when we came home, Ed Sullivan was on, which is
Oh, I
about
remember.
Sylvan.
I remember
think
you
I was
saying that.
right. So it was an all-day affair also. So people ask me,
Oh, my
why
God.
aren't you don't watch the Giants when you're Giants football? There was no football on. Ed Sullivan was on when we got home.
Oh,
All that football stuff.
all the
was
football
over.
was at my house.
Yeah, we
my
didn't
father was my
Yeah.
father, the Catholic, was in his chair watching his football.
Yeah,
because
we
he
didn't
would
have that.
never go to church with us because he paid his dues.
Yeah. But that's just the way that was. I mean, there are other churches that are all inclusive, like Reverend Michael Beckwith, who's in The Secret
Mm-hmm.
with long dreads and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
His church he says there's like 8,000 people there.
right.
I think there's 2 services, or
Well, is his
I could be
considered
off with the number.
Is it a non-denominational or?
They've got a rabbi praying for you. They've got a Buddhist. I mean, every sect you can think of is in the church somewhere.
What do they have?
praying for you.
Do they have pulpits all throughout the church?
No,
or-
they're on the side. They're on the sides, and people are sitting in the middle, and they're praying for you all together.
Huh.
And he's like, we're all here doing the same thing.
Right.
Now, my father's church, after he passed, and obviously the congregation gets smaller and smaller, because if you can't get the youth locked in,
right.
people are leaving the planet, so the church is getting smaller and smaller.
Right.
And I happened to go to a funeral that was on the green right next to right near our church,
Mm-hmm.
probably maybe a mile away. And there's 3 churches on the green, okay, from
Mhm.
different denominations, but they're on the green. So I was talking to the minister after the part of the service, and I was saying how my father's church was right down the road. She goes, "Oh my goodness, we were trying to find a way to help absorb that church so it doesn't go away, to keep the church alive."
Right.
I said, "Well, why can't you just combine the services?"
Yeah.
And she looked at me like I was crazy. Like, combine the services? You mean? I was like, yeah, I mean, other than the singing, there's not much different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I
I
mean?
guess there was some.
Yeah, politics.
Uh,
That you just can't combine, because like you say, there's all those rules. Everyone has all their different
the rules and regulations. Yeah.
which is I always thought was kind of crazy. I was like, church should be church,
I know.
you know?
I know.
I remember taking this little girl that I was living with to church, and we were going to church, and she was leaving, and her grandmother says, "You can't wear sandals to church." The little girl looks down and goes, "Jesus wore sandals."
I love it.
Sandals? Because a good point.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, what are you complaining about? What are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
So,
That's what we hated about church growing up, is having to get into the Sunday best.
the Sunday best, and then you see the people in some churches that are in the wardrobes and all the flash and all that,
Uh-huh.
right? But then when you look at our spiritual leaders, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, they basically wore almost nothing. They just wore like maybe a robe, maybe, or some, like Buddha didn't even wear that, which makes you wonder.
Yeah, really.
These are the ones that we look up to as our spiritual leaders, and they dress in almost nothing. But
Mhm.
when you look at us, we look at people who are spiritual leaders, and not only are they in
Well, I think people look at it like we're being respectful by getting all dolled up.
Yeah.
So we're respecting God more if we're all dolled up.
yeah. I don't think Jesus is on that page, but
I don't think
that's
God
me.
really cares.
that's me. I always found these things to be interesting and kind of, So it's interesting when I listen to the God messages,
Uh-huh.
and you hear them, they just sound so crystal clear and make so much sense, rather than some things that don't make any sense.
Exactly.
My father used to always be stressed over the politics in the church.
Really?
Stressed. and he's not the kind of guy that lives in stress.
Like what? Like,
I don't really. I was too young to know
yeah.
exactly what the stress was, but you could just tell that he wasn't always himself.
Huh.
When he was on the pulpit, we didn't know who he was. We were like, "That's our dad." He's all over the place, And I mean, really, we were like in amaze, like, "That's Dad," because he just like was a different person when he was when he was
Really?
preaching. Yeah, we would see him sit in his office.
Yeah.
His office is right next to my bedroom, so I'd see him there. He'd be there at night, sitting in there,
Yeah.
studying for his sermon,
Right.
trying to get his sermon together. And I was like,
Now, would he read it, or was
he
he
would just
pretty
have,
good?
he'd
Was
have
he
the-
like you, where you just have where things just flow?
we didn't bother him in that office.
I need that. I need to
He
learn
had
how to
his
do
Bible. He had his whatever he had, whether he was doing in there. We don't know. I just like Dad's in his office,
that. Yeah.
and he would come out and he'd have a sermon the next day, and
He was preparing.
he would say that he didn't have his sermon tonight as we're driving, because we would drive from the hood of Richfield to Brantford.
I didn't think Richfield had a hood.
Okay, I tried to get away with it.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't really have it today. And then he'd get up there and like he was possessed.
Well,
and just like
you can do the
kind of
same
that
thing.
Yeah.
Like Larry arrives tonight at 6 o'clock, and I'm like, all right, Larry, what are we going to talk about tonight? Because I'm not really good at this kind of
and
stuff.
to make you
but
and to make you really nervous,
Yeah,
I always say,
I'm a
I got
nervous-
nothing.
I'm a nervous wreck. But
Yeah.
hopefully I'll get better at this. But Larry's like, I don't have anything to talk about, and I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a great podcast.
I haven't stopped talking yet, have I?
Yeah, I know. Well, thank God.
I know.
Keep talking. I'm hoping
so-
it's going to rub off on me eventually.
But there was always that, But when he finished at the church, he was into talking to the people and whoever was work.
Well, that's the
whoever's
best part.
working.
That's the
No,
best.
it's not, because
It
that's
wasn't?
where the politics came in.
Well, okay. I
And
remember
you could kind of see it.
Yeah.
We could feel that there's things that
Well, because you've got all these individuals that have things that
Power.
are dear to them that they
Yeah.
want addressed, and if he's not addressing,
it's not even the things that the people wanted. It was what the church was about. It's what the church was about. It was like, I mentioned Michael Beckwith before,
mm-hmm.
and he had done some meditation retreats where you'd come and they would talk about meditation and how his church ran and whatever you want to talk about. And it was really, really good and inspiring. His wife would put these songs together that she put together,
Mm-hmm.
and they believed that the songs could heal you. If you're in the hospital and you just play the same songs over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
people would get healed. And so it was a very, very inspiring meditation and kind of service,
Right.
and you were just like drawn to it, and you were like just so happy to be there. Well, it was Saturday night, and Sunday was the last day, and this one gentleman stood up and said, "So I'm a minister, and I've been listening to you talk, and it's so inspiring
Uh-huh.
to hear you." He goes, "But I have to say this. How do I go to my congregation tomorrow? Sunday, I have to leave tonight
Yeah.
so that I could preach tomorrow and go back to my congregation. And I'm so confused because of what I've heard here
Yeah.
and what's inspired me." And he goes, "How do I go back and fit into the rules?"
Yeah.
And Michael Beckwith paused and then said, "So who do you work for?" Which is the question.
Right.
Who do you work for? Are you going back to work for the church? Or are you going to work for
God.
God?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Which was
Yep.
which was her perfect answer.
Exactly.
Because it's like, what are you doing? And it's the same thing of having a calling or whatever it is. What are you doing it for? What's your purpose of doing it? What are you doing it for?
Well, I'm certainly not doing it for me. I'm doing it for God. But this is tough
Yeah.
for me. It's tough, but I'm gonna overcome.
You love it to be tough.
Uh
You love it to be tough. If you don't think of it as being tough, it won't be tough.
Okay.
It's really have you read my book yet?
No, I haven't read your book yet.
That's basically what it's about. If
All right. I guess I better read Larry's book by the
Yeah.
next
Yeah. Because
the
it's,
next podcast.
because that's really what it's about. A lot of it's about that.
Okay.
It's like the way you set yourself up for you're punishing yourself, and you're making it harder on yourself. You don't realize that you're doing it.
What, by me saying that I'm not good at public speaking and all that stuff?
All that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been
Yeah.
singing that song for a long time.
Yeah. And I had the same beliefs, the same belief system. I don't like the way my voice sounds. I don't like any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just same thing that you say. But then again, I watch people on these other podcasts, and I'm like, but they're being who they really are. There's no acting going on or
Right.
anything. You're just being true to yourself. And if you're going to be true to yourself, what am I fearing? This is who I am. Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
if I make a statement about what I see, it's nothing against Jehovah's Witnesses or anything like that. It's just what I see. If you're coming to me with fear and God is love, I'm confused.
Right.
Do you mean? Now I'm confused. All you can ask
So
me.
are you saying I'm confusing you?
No. I'm saying when I see that controversy,
Yeah.
and God is love, and someone's talking about the fear of the world, and this is wrong, and this is wrong. Did you see that? And did you watch that on TV? And I'm like, I don't spend my time doing that.
Right.
Has nothing to do with me. None of that has anything to do with me. But if you want to talk about love, I'm all in.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, so I'm kind of that just makes me, makes me who I am come out.
Awesome.
So it's like Wayne Dyer said, if you have an orange, all right, and you squeeze it,
I don't remember this story.
what's coming out?
Orange juice.
Always orange juice. So if you squeeze me, what's coming out? It's going to be love. You're never going to get grapefruit juice, and you're never going to get pineapple juice or some other juice when you squeeze an orange.
Right.
You're going to get orange juice. And that's, you know what I'm saying? That's just a great little story he tells.
Right.
So,
He tells a lot of great little stories.
yeah. Like the cat story, which is not in my book, and people have complained about it because I used to tell that story.
What's the cat story?
The cat story?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to tell the cat stories. It's just not in my book. And some people will be happy that I told this story once again. But it's a story that Wayne Dyer used to talk about, where you're walking down a road and there's alley cat that lives in the streets,
Okay.
and there's a little kitten, and the little kitten's running around in circles, really really fast, and the alley cat's walking by him and like, I didn't want to talk to him. What are you doing? And the little kid's all out of breath. A little kid's out of breath. He's like, well, I'm a kitten, and my family took me to kitten school,
Yeah.
and I lived up there in that mansion, and they sent me to this fancy school that told me that happiness is in your tail, and that's how
I've
cats
never
are.
heard this Wayne Dyer.
And the
Dyer
and the
story.
and the cat and the alley cat's listening to him. He's like, it's in your tail. He goes, yes. So if I run fast enough, and I catch that tail, and I get my teeth on it, I'll have happiness the rest of my life. And the alley cat goes, wow, well, I didn't grow up in a mansion or anything like that. I kind of lived here in the streets.
Yeah.
But it's funny, I kind of learned the same thing.
Yeah.
That, yeah, happiness is in my tail. But you know what I found? That if I just go about my life, that tail follows me wherever I go. And I always have happiness. And I always have happiness. Yeah.
There's no way to happiness. Happiness
Happiness
is the way.
That's, that's it.
Oh, that was one of my favorites.
Yeah. That's on my door as you leave my house, actually,
Is it?
on the wall. Yeah.
If we could all live by that.
Really?
It's so true, though.
It would be true, right? It'd be awesome. Everything would be different,
Right.
but we don't. We
But
live
we're
by.
that's what we do. We're searchers. Just like my search for God, and people search for happiness, and
Well, it's in your
and-
tail.
yeah, it's in your tail.
That's it.
It's
You
not
live a
like,
certain
I
way, it
love
follows.
that story.
You live certain way, it follows you. You don't have to chase after it.
Yes, sirree.
Yeah. So, what else is going on?
God.
God, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Just been so busy trying to get organized and
They say,
working on a lot of little projects.
yeah,
You know me.
it's all about the projects.
Yes. Well,
Well,
not about that kind. I've got
Well, you said God,
stuff
which
that
is,
has to go along with what we're doing, but
yeah.
we're not going to talk about that yet.
There's a subject we can't talk about. So,
yes,
yeah.
we can't talk about it yet.
Yeah, we made promises, so
Yes.
we'll hold them. But you said God, which is good. And the only difference, what's the difference between God and good?
A 0.
That's it.
Well, that is the
I
God.
know.
That is the God number.
That's it.
0.
Yeah. So
Yeah. No God messages for another week or so. Lisa's on vacation.
okay.
She's down at the beach.
How many God messages are there total? we'll be
So
going
far, we've got 35.
35.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. They're coming fast and furious. It's
Well,
exci-
you're
it's-
gonna
It's
absolutely,
exciting.
and you're gonna love this one that's being read today. It has a lot to do with the heart, and
Listening to your heart.
yeah, my meditation practice has always been listening to my heart, and there's so much about the heart that people don't know.
Well,
You
why
know.
don't you tell them?
Well, there's
I love just pushing it over to Larry. Come on,
There's-
Larry. Why don't you tell us?
there's
I'll just go, huh?
there's
Yeah?
a study in California. It's called Heart Math. It's
I never heard of that.
it's been a science project for a while where they have studied the heart and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they give you the facts about the heart, that your heart is surrounded with brain matter, actually, and it's actually more powerful than your brain. It's not even close. Yet we tend to, listen to our brain, which the two hemispheres of the brain, one analyzes the other half, and it's constantly a battle with it. When you meditate and you go into your heart, that confrontation doesn't happen. There's no judgment there,
Right.
and everything just kind of smooths away. If like it was conflict and it goes into your heart, it just smooths out and goes
Right.
away.
Right.
Yeah. So when you put your focus there, that's why when I heard the message for that, people are going to absolutely love, because it's a
Yeah, it is.
it's a
great
beautiful
message.
message. So
Perfect.
perfect is right. Well, so I think that's our time. Or I could talk forever. So
Yes.
you have to give me this. Whenever I used to have a client, I would have this little thing where I would basically say, so each session we have is an hour and a half, and I would set my clock, and I would say, I'm going to set my clock to go off an hour and a half,
Yeah.
not because I need to stop. You need me to stop, or I'll sit here and talk to you all night long. So they got to know that when that buzzer went off, time was up.
Yeah.
Basically, because if not, I'd spend the night. I would definitely spend the night. In the morning, I'd still be talking. So
See, I'm like that at the salon.
yes, you are.
I mean, Larry sits out in the waiting room and he watches me, and I'm like blah 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 blah. But put a microphone in front of my face, and I'm just like, But you're just so interesting to talk to, Larry.
Well,
so
you're interesting to talk to too. What we thought we were going to have to do is have you stand behind me like you were doing my hair, and then you could just be yourself.
But as you can see, Larry has no hair, and I'd be just buffing the top of his head. So
That's it.
So that's not going to work.
Yeah, I try to.
Maybe you could swap out with Jimmy because he really needs a haircut right about now.
I always try to tell her clients that that she did my hair first. Mop it. We did the mopping. We did the mop and glow.
Mop and glow.
That's it. So, well, so thank you for joining us again.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Excellent.
All right, Larry.
All right.
Sayonara.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I received January 24th, 2019, and we're calling this Listen to Your Heart. Okay. Your heart is your guidance center and should always be listened to, first and foremost. I will always be there to assist you when you listen from your heart. I want to talk to you about knowing when you are listening to your heart and not your head. It is a feeling, not a thought. The brain is the thought center which analyzes all the data that the human experiences and makes analysis from this data. The heart does not analyze, it feels. It is accurate all of the time. I give my children this gift of guidance to make their lives flow effortlessly, so the human is not weighed down by every decision that a human must make in daily life. Some decisions are easy to make and do not require the heart, but decisions that are instrumental in a human's life must be guided by the heart, for I am there. I am guiding you towards the best path at that time of your life. You may wonder what will happen when you make a decision from your mind, when the heart is where the answer lies. You will have victories when the mind is used, but the heart is where God's love subsides and where the best solutions for one's problems will come from. I give you magnificent minds to experience life through and gather information with. I am urging humans to make the heart-gathered information as important as the mind. I say this because I want humans to know I am part of them, always, and ready to assist. I am not an entity that needs to be sought after. I am here, in you and around you. You are never not with me. I want people to be aware of this. Many feel alone and call for my help. There is no need to call. There is only a need to get in touch with your heart. It is so simple that people think the mere simplicity of it all renders it not true. There are so many that think that in order to connect with me, you need to be taught how, that you need to learn from others who I am by going to church or reading books, and the list goes on. I am readily available to the uneducated. I want the uneducated, those that have not defined who I am by someone else's description of who I am. I am different to each soul or human, but to each soul I am the same. Humans must become satisfied to know me in their own special way and not how they are taught to know me by others' experiences of me. Your beating heart is my heart. For those who wish to find me in other ways, I do not discourage. I am just trying to make things easier for the human race. Love is all that matters.